This is the Unit 1 Math 8 test corrections video. In order to retake the test, you must watch the whole video, write everything that I write as notes, and turn that in order to be eligible to take the retake. Number 1, the area of a square is given by A equals S squared, where S is the length of each side of the square. If the area of a square room is 64 square meters, what is the length of one side of the room? So when you have a square, all your sides are equal, and in order to find the area, you take the length squared. Okay, so this area inside here is going to be length squared. Okay, or in this case, it's going to be 64. So to find the length of one side, you just need to find the square root of that number of the area. So in this case, it's going to be 8. Go ahead and pause the video and write down what you need from this page. Number 2, the area of a square is given by A equals S squared, where S is the length of each side of the square. If the area of a square room is 81 square meters, what is the length of one side of the room in meters? So in this room, again, we have a square. The area is 81. So the length of one side is going to be the square root of 81, which is equal to 9, or 9m for 9 meters. Number 3, 2 students gave the following responses about the value of x in the equation x squared equals 169. Sabrina said that value of x is 13, and Stephanie said the value of x is negative 13. So when we're talking about square roots, there's always actually 2 answers. So the square root of negative 69 is going to be both positive 13 and negative 13. The reason for that is that if you took negative 13 squared, you get a positive 169, because when you multiply a negative number times a negative number, you get a positive number. So in this case, both Sabrina and Stephanie were correct. What is the value of 324 squared? And again, you should be using your calculators for these. You have access to Desmos. This one, if you put in 324 squared, your calculator will give you 18, but we know that negative 18 is also a square root, because negative 18 squared will give you 324. And your calculator won't tell you that, but it will give you the 18, and you need to know that negative 18 is also a square root. Number 5. Actually, before we do number 5, should be the square root of 324 equals plus or minus 18 is what you need to write. Number 5, what is the value of negative square root of 121? Okay, so you can't have negative signs within that square root symbol, like where I'm highlighting here. However, if I have a negative sign outside of this, then what happens is we evaluate the square root, and then the negative will be in front of it. So the square root of 121 is going to be equal to 11. Okay, but that negative is going to, in front of it, is going to indicate that we're talking about the negative. So this one would be negative 11. Number 6, arrange the list of values in order from least at the top to most at the bottom. Select each term and drag up or down to change the positions in the list. Okay, so we know that we're going to need to change each of these into a decimal before they can be solved. So pi is 3.14. The square root of 2, I'm going to go ahead and put that in a calculator, and I get an irrational number, which is 1.41421. It goes on and on and on. I'm just going to go ahead and write 2 decimal places, because I don't think that we're really going to need more than that. Next one, this is already in decimal form, but I'm going to line it up with my others And I should only actually need 2 decimal places, so that's all I'm going to write. Last one, the square root of 5. I get another irrational number, which is going to be 2.23606. I'm going to just round that to 2.24 so that I can start looking at the values of these. So I'm looking for least, okay, least to most. So I'm looking for the smallest one, and I'm going to mark it as number 1. So my smallest one, I always start with, I'm going to start with my left-hand place value. I have a 3, a 1, a 3, and a 2. So that's going to make this one here, the square root of 2 is going to be my smallest. Then the square root of 5. Then these each have 3 in my ones place, so I'm going to move to my next place. I have a 1 and a 1, so I'm going to move on to the next place. And I have a 4 and a 1, so that's going to make this one my next one, and then this one. Okay. All right, next one. A teacher asks 4 students to give a number value. The table shows the students' responses. Arrange the students' values in order from least at the top. Okay, so we're going least, and I'm writing this because I want you to write it. Least to greatest. Okay, at the bottom. All right, so first thing I need to do is convert all of these to decimals. So my first one already has that decimal format. Next one, square root of 99, an irrational number. I get 9.949, so I'm going to round that to 9.5. Now, if you end up with more, if they end up being closer together, then I may need to look at it and add more decimal places, but we'll see. So 8.95 is my next one, and then the square root of 82. I'm going to put that in my calculator, square root of 82, and I get 9.055, so I'm going to round that to 0.6. So now that they're all lined up, and in decimal format, I can see which one's biggest. I look at my first left-hand place value. The 8 is going to be the smallest, which is going to be Gabe. So I'll put 1. Then the rest are 9s, and I'm going to have to move on to my next place value. I have 4, 9, or 0. So 0 is going to be my smallest. That's Mackenzie. So I'll put number 2. Then I'm going to have a 4, which is Andy. I'll put 3. And Carmen is going to have that 9, so she'll be number 4. All right, next problem. Number 8, we're arranging these from greatest to least. Okay, so write greatest to least. And again, I'm going to need to put these in my calculator to find out what they are as decimals. That first one, I'm just going to put in 3.14 divided by 7. That gives me 0.448. I'm going to put, I always round to the 100th place to start out. That gives me 0.45. And sometimes I have to add more later. This next one, I have the square root of 9, which is actually just 3 over 2. So I could put 3 divided by 2 in my calculator. If you didn't know that, you could put the square root of 9 into your calculators. You could put this whole thing just the way it is. I get 1.5. Next one, I have 19 divided by 13. I get 1.461. So I'm going to just round that to 1.46. 19 divided by 20. Put that in my calculator, and I get 0.95. And my last one, I have the square root of 5, which is 2 rounded to 2.24. Now I'm going to start putting them in order, but this time I'm looking for greatest to least. So I'm going to start with my ones place. I'm looking for the biggest one this time. So that's going to be my this square root of 5 to start out. Next one, it's going to be one of these ones are my biggest ones. If I look at the next place value, I have a 5 here. So my next one is going to be that square root of 9 over 2. And then next will be the other one that started with a 1, which was 19 over 13. Next, I have these that have zeros in the one place. Then I move over to the next place. I'm looking for the biggest, which is this 0.95. So that would be 19/20ths. And my last one, pi over 7. Number 9, on a number line, which integer is closest to the square root of 15? So I'm going to put the square root of 15 into my calculator, and I get 3.872. So really just, I think just one decimal place is, in fact, I'll round it up to 3.9. And I know that's going to be positive, so that's going to be somewhere around here, but it's asking which integer is closest. So it's closest to 4. Number 10, what is the decimal equivalent to negative 5/6? You can put this in your calculator as negative 5 divided by 6. And you're going to get 0.83 repeating. And, negative 0.83 repeating. So that's going to be this one right here. A simple one to use your calculator. All right, so it's just negative 5 over 6. And this is what you need to write down. Use your calculator and just divide. This is a simple problem. Number 11. The table shows the approximate distances of 3 galaxies from Earth. Which list shows these distances from least to greatest? Okay, so we're going least to greatest. Okay, so in scientific notation, because you get 10 to an exponent, you're probably going to have your biggest exponent is going to be your biggest number. Okay, so I know this one with 10 to the power of 6 is going to be my bigger of them. Then if I look down at my 10 to the power, both of these two have 10 to the power of 5. So my smallest one is going to be the smallest decimal number here. So that's going to be this one here, 1.69 times 10 to the 5th. That's going to be my least. So I can kind of just come over here and figure out which ones don't have that one as their first one. So that's going to be, this one has the 1.7 coming first. So that's not it. This one is good so far. This one, good so far. And then this one has the wrong one to start. So I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next one. So I've evaluated that one. I go on to the next one, and I'm going to have this one that also has the 10 to the 5th. So looking at my second number in these two problems. So this one now I know is going to be my answer because that has both of those. Okay, so what I'd like you to write down, I want you to write down these numbers in order, and that you're doing least to greatest. Okay, last one for this video, then you'll have to access the next video. Arrange the rational numbers in order from least to greatest. For this one, you're going to need to use your calculator again. We have some fractions. You put them in as division. 3 divided by 4 is 0.75. 7 divided by 8 is 0.85. 0.875. And once they're all in decimals, you should be able to order them just fine. If you put them vertically, they're easier